John Hook's Newsmaker starts now.
Thanks for joining us for Newsmaker. It wasn't that long ago that the state of Arizona was flush with cash. We were enjoying a $2.5 billion surplus just last year. Not anymore. Arizona now, according to the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, the state deficit is about $1.3 billion, and the 2025 budget could be worse. Republicans are eyeing spending cuts, delaying transportation projects, dipping into special funds. Democrats blame much of the deficit on the burgeoning universal school voucher program. Kevin McCarthy is with the Arizona Tax Research Association. Since 1940, you've been around. Good to see you, Kevin. It's been a while.
Good to see you again, John.
Okay, so we went from surplus to deficit in a hurry. Why?
Well, we spent the surplus in actually in a couple of different fiscal years. We beginning in fiscal 21, spent close to $2 billion in a manner then at that time I thought was quite appropriate. We were paying debt, trying to get off books, things that had interest costs associated with it, some of it going to major highway projects. This last go around in the year that we're in now, in fiscal 24 last year, on about a $15 billion budget, the legislature decided to spend $2.8 billion in cash. When they were looking at that, they did this with their eyes open. They knew that the remaining fund balance was going to be almost gone going into fiscal 25. The manner in which that occurred probably was, from a precedent standpoint, was one of the worst things that has happened to the Capitol from a budgeting standpoint, and that is they didn't spend it on transportation projects. They carved it up and gave it money to each individual lawmaker to spend however they wanted to see fit. That's where the income tax credit came about. Some of the Republicans pooled their money for an income tax, but some of them took that money back to their districts for projects that might have had nothing to do with a state government.
Okay, so the money comes in and the inclination on the part of the politicians is always to spend it.
That's always the big threat. And in their defense, again, in 21, when we spent a lot of the deficit, they did the right thing. They tried to pay down. They paid retirement debt down. They paid state debt down. Some of it went to transportation projects. That was most appropriate. This year, what we did last year, what was problematic about that is we all knew that the combination of the income tax cuts and the slowing of the economy was going to create some headwinds going into FY25 and 26, and that budget surplus, the $2.8 billion, would have helped considerably, right, to patch us in those years and waiting for the economy to pick back up again. And instead of that, all that money was drained and is gone. I'm sure that as we speak, lawmakers and maybe the governor's office are looking at trying to peel back some of that money to try to deal with this current deficit.
Was
That's tough to do.
Was the 2.5 going to the 2.5 on income tax on balance a good or bad idea?
Well, so that was solely a function, you'll recall, of the surcharge that passed Prop 208 that then got fed into the court system, ultimately was struck down by the Supreme Court. Lawmakers were responding to something that, couldn't agree more, would have done extraordinary economic damage to the state of Arizona to have one of the highest personal income tax rates in the country on upper income Arizonans. We never would not, if not for Prop 208, they never would have passed the flat tax to go to 2.5, but here we are, we've got it. I happen to think long term it's going to be one of the best things that the state's done to our tax system.
Are we already seeing people responding from other states moving in?
Well, John, we've seen it since 1990 when Fife-Symington got elected and started slowly cutting income tax rates. Our income tax rates prior to the 2.5% cut and having a rate of 4.5% were 40% lower than they were in the 1990s when we actually had one of the higher income tax rates. Our income taxes over that period of time have just exploded, even if you control for population growth. I think that's going to happen.
In terms of the revenue side.
In terms of revenue. Yes. And that's why we were fearful Prop 208 would have shut that off immediately. So I think we're going to thrive on the 2.5% rate going forward. Once we absorb this cut, it's taken a couple of years to get to know exactly how much revenue was associated with that. We now know that, and I think going forward, I think the state's going to be in a great position.
Let's talk about the budget for a second, because you start going through the numbers, and it is really, really interesting where the money in Arizona goes. $18 billion general fund, okay? K through 12 education is 43% of the budget. We're almost spending half of the budget on education.
Right.
That's a big chunk, despite all the discussion that we're not spending enough on education.
Yeah, and moreover, the amount that the state is appropriating to the K-12 schools this fiscal year is twice what it was appropriated in FY15, if you can imagine that. So in FY15,
double,
$4.5 billion. Today, it's $9 billion.
But we're seeing student growth declining.
That's it. Yeah, that's in the face of student growth declines. Went through the 2020 for 20 program with Governor Ducey to try to increase teacher pay, which has climbed handsomely in relative terms to others.
That really shocked me. Teacher pay now went from 49th in the nation to 31.
Correct.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
Why is nobody talking about that?
Well, the way to get more money at the Capitol is to come down at the Capitol and pick a statistic the spending lobby loves to do that makes it look like you deserve more. I'd say that the taxpayers are tied to a whipping post with the K-12s, and whatever statistic serves them, that's what we get whipped with. And so for years, it was the teacher pay statistic that was ranked, went back and forth in the 40s. With the huge growth in funding, that statistic, as you note, has improved dramatically. Fourth highest improvement in the country. They've pivoted back to per pupil spending. So you actually
is that a good metric?
No, it's not a good metric. And moreover, if we ought to at least stick to what the policy objective was. The policy objective was to increase teacher pay.
And get teacher retention.
Teacher retention, supportive of that. The Auditor General has gone in and audited all of that and demonstrated that teacher pay is up 30% in the last 5 years. So that download of money did what it was intended to do. You don't see it, regrettably, talked about much in the media because now they pivot back and they talk about we rank low in per pupil funding.
We're at 49th or something like that.
We've always ranked low. Fast growth states always are going to rank low in per pupil spending. Slow growth because the denominator continues to outpace any amount of money that you can put in.
Talk to me about the vouchers. There's been a big debate about the universal voucher program. We've got about 74,000 kids, I think, in this now. Last year's cost was around $723.5 million. The voucher program, I don't know. The argument has been that there's rich people taking advantage of this, people who may have been in private schools anyway. Has that been reckless, and has that led to the budget deficit?
Look, firstly, there's a series of events in Arizona throughout our history where we have moved aggressively to create a program, the Access program, for example, that funds health care in Arizona. We did that kind of blindly, walking into that in order to get federal funding. This was similar to that I don't think lawmakers knew exactly what the impact was going to be of the ESA program, how many people were going to elect to do it. Certainly the rhetoric is that from the K-12 advocates that everybody's going to leave every public school. I mean, no kids left public school. They're all going to be in private schools. There's no room for kids to do that. So we knew that from a space standpoint, it couldn't be completely out of control, being the alt fuels that they have talked about, and it's already leveling off. The ESA students are at about 8% of total students. So that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's not a runaway program. And John, the 700 to 800 million that we're now spending on the ESA program is about what we have downloaded in the increases to the K-12 schools that I talked about a couple of minutes ago in 1 year. In their years where that was the increase we gave to the K-12 budget. Never in any of those did you ever hear that it was fiscally irresponsible. It was the next alt fuels, and the world was going to come to an end as we know it. It's a lot of wild. They don't like the direction of that appropriation. They don't want monies going to parents to allow them to send them to a school of their choice.
Could they end up putting a cap on incomes to say if you're over this income level, you can't have this benefit? Would that ever fly?
I don't know whether or not in the school realm, whether or not that would be subject to some legal equal protection challenge legally or not, but I can tell you that I think the advocates for that at the Capitol probably will never agree to that kind of a cap.
So would you call where we are right now a crisis in the budget here in Arizona?
No, a crisis is what we were in the Great Recession, when we lost almost 40% of state revenue and everybody was getting cut. The budgets, if you look at the budgets that the great staff at the JLBC put out for us, actually shows expenditure growth. The growth between the FY24 budget we're in now and the FY25 budget that's on the table is about a 5% increase. It's not a cut. So, and the K-12 budget, as you know, is constitutionally protected. There's nothing the legislature can do with the base support
and again,
level
that's
funding.
43% of the budget.
Yeah, that's going to grow by inflation.
Okay.
And by the way, we're in a, from a budget standpoint, we're in a somewhat good situation, despite the messaging. Probably long term's not good, and student growth's not climbing. If ever there was a time to start the ESA program and to provide parental choice to all kids, it was now, because K-12 public district schools are declining in students, and so those students are. The ESA students are plugging into the budget actually quite nicely.
Just looking at down the line, it looks like we've got to get through 2025, which may be uglier than this year in terms of a deficit, 2026, and then 2027, the projection is we're back in the black.
Correct.
So
and depending on how we deal with the state land trust issue, which we all call Prop 123 before, which is providing the state about $300 million in funding to fund the K-12 budget. If we were to do that again in the manner that we're doing it now, then that would help FY26 and 27 even more if we could get that sort of rebooted in a similar fashion.
One more thing before we go. Just give us a lay of the land of where Arizona stands competitively and our mix of income tax, property tax, sales tax. Do you think we're in the sweet spot, or is there some moving around that needs to be done?
Well, let me just say this. In 1990, Arizona was easily characterized as a high-tax, low-growth state in terms of its fiscal arrangement. We had some of the highest income taxes in the country, some of the highest business property taxes in the country, third highest in the country, and high sales taxes on top of that. We are now a low-tax, high-growth state. The business property tax problem has been mitigated dramatically. Our business property tax ranking is in the 20s, not third. We went from high income taxes to now the low flat tax that I think we ought to keep and live off of what I think is going to be a great revenue generator for state government. We're stuck with some of the highest sales taxes in the country. We like sales taxes here in Arizona. We've got a lot of jurisdictions that have rates north of 10%. That seems to be a tax, though, that most Arizona taxpayers are tolerant of. So our tax system, I think, is in pretty decent shape, and I think it's primed to be a good revenue generator for state and local government.
And we're now competitive with Texas, Utah, all of the states that you know we're competing against.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think in most of the states in the West, we're even more competitive.
That's good news.
It is good news.
Okay, 2027. That's when everything gets.
Okay. Good to see you.
Kevin McCarthy, Arizona Tax Association. You don't get confused with the other Kevin McCarthy, do you?
Sometimes. I duck.
I think that's a good instinct. Kevin McCarthy, thank you. It's great to see you again. It's been a while. Yep. Coming up next, one of the most potent weapons in fighting wildland fires is air attack. And the man who started the first company dedicated to providing aerial firefighting services joins me next on Newsmaker.